Coming up on The World Today. Myanmar military accused ousted leader Suu Kyi of taking $600,000 and gold. It's been 1 year since the World Health Organization declared the coronavirus a global pandemic. Plus, Duke of Cambridge Prince William says the royals are not a racist family in his first comments after accusations by Prince Harry and Meghan. Hello and welcome. I'm Akaite Afia. Myanmar's military rulers have accused the ousted leader Aung San Suu Kyi of illegally accepting $600,000 and 11 kilograms of gold. The allegation is the strongest yet leveled by the military since it overthrew Ms. Suu Kyi and the country's democratic leadership on the 1st of February. No evidence was provided, and an MP from her party has denied the allegation. Meanwhile, rights group Amnesty has accused the military of going on a killing spree.
People in Myanmar's central town of Myang flee and huddle together amid the sound of firing. 6 people were killed in the area after security forces fired on the protest. One other person was killed in the North Dagon district of Yangon, Myanmar's biggest city. The violence comes as Myanmar's military government accused deposed leader Aung San Suu Kyi of accepting illegal payment, and rights group Amnesty International accused the military of adopting battle tactics against demonstrators. Before Thursday's death, an advocacy group, the Assistant Association for Political Prisoners, has said more than 60 protesters were killed and about 2,000 people detained by security forces since the February 1 coup against Suu Kyi's elected government. The power grab, just a decade after the end of 49 years of strict military rule, triggered huge protests nationwide. The army justified the coup by saying that the election won by Aung San Suu Kyi's National League for Democracy was marred by fraud, an assertion rejected by the Electoral Commission. The UN, the US, and a host of other countries have condemned the killing of civilians and the crackdown against anti-coup protesters in Myanmar and called on the authorities to exercise restraint. The military has dismissed criticism of its actions, instead blaming Ms. Suu Kyi for the violence.
Elsewhere in Asia, China's legislature has approved a resolution to overhaul Hong Kong's electoral system, its latest move to tighten control over the city. The Patriots governing Hong Kong resolution was passed at the National People's Congress, or NPC, today. It will reduce democratic representation and allow a pro-Beijing panel to vet and elect candidates. The former British colony was handed back to China in 1997 under a model called One Country, Two Systems. Under the deal, which gave the territory freedoms not available in mainland China, Hong Kong also had its own mini-constitution and an elected parliament. The latest Chinese move follows a series of measures that have tightened Beijing's grip on Hong Kong, including the passing of a national security law and a crackdown on activists and opposition politicians. To other stories now, the United Nations Human Rights Chief has urged countries to step up to trials in their national courts against suspected war criminals in Syria as the conflict marks its 10th anniversary. Michelle Bachelet says attempts to refer atrocities in Syria to the International Criminal Court in The Hague for prosecution have failed. Only one person has been convicted in a foreign court for crimes against humanity or war crimes in a conflict that has cost hundreds of thousands of lives, many of them civilians. It is thought that many possible war criminals have relocated overseas.
We owe it to the victims to ensure the next decade is one of accountability and remedy, with their rights and needs addressed so they can rebuild their lives. It is a form of perpetual agony which no one who has not gone through it can really comprehend. a form of mental torture affecting tens of thousands of victims and family members in Syria. For these reasons, we are calling for the creation of a separate independent body with an international mandate to clarify the fate and whereabouts of missing people, to identify human remains, and provide support to families.
South Africans have been demanding justice over the police killing of a 35-year-old man who was walking past a students' protest in Johannesburg's Central Business District on Wednesday. The students of South Africa's University of Witwatersrand have been protesting for a third day this week because the school has barred a large number of them from registering for this academic year because they owe the school money. Today, alongside their demands, they took their protests to the police station to open a case of brutality against the police, among other stops.
More than 6,000 students of the University of the Witwatersrand have been barred from the 2021 registration owing to historical debts, and they're having none of it. So they've been occupying the streets for days, and this is what they want.
We'd want them to fix the NSFAS issue right now. NSFAS is saying that it will not be funding new students, because there's not enough money. So that issue is something that needs to be addressed. We'd like the issue of financial exclusions to be fixed. We want all of our students at the University of Witwatersrand that have been readmitted to be allowed to register.
The Vice-Chancellor of the 99-year-old university, Professor Zebulon Vilakazi, appealed for calm as engagements over the students' debts continue.
We are currently sitting at around 1 billion rand of student debt in the university, which has doubled from 2017, more than doubled rather. At the time it was at around 450 million rand. Now we are sitting at 1 billion rand. That is a debt ceiling beyond which we cannot sustain a brighter future for the university.
These protests have spanned most of the week and have seen police firing rubber bullets at the students. Unfortunately, a 35-year-old bystander was shot and killed on Wednesday. Government and many groupings have condemned the killing, calling for justice for the family of the bereaved. Meanwhile, the Minister for Higher Education, Dr. Bladen Zimande, says government is looking into the issues raised by the students.
Cabinet agreed that funding should be reprioritized from the budget of the Department of Higher Education and Training in order to ensure that all deserving NSFAS qualifying students are able to receive funding support for the 2021 academic year.
However, the biggest challenge we face is those that are called the missing middle students who are too rich to qualify and too poor to afford, and then too poor to pay, too rich to qualify for NSFAS and too poor to pay. And there's a range of those. We have systematically been working on managing that number, and that's where the large bulk of the student debt resides. Among others, we've got those that actually have lost their scholarship because they failed repeatedly, and then they don't qualify for both NSFAS and their own scholarships through various companies. And others are those that owe within a certain amount of money that we are working through to make sure that we draw down that number. Now, as of the end of yesterday, 95% of our students have been registered.
The students took their protest this Thursday to the Johannesburg police station, the headquarters of the African National Congress, where they handed over a memorandum of demands to the Secretary General, Ace Magashule, as well as the Constitutional Court. They vowed to keep occupying the streets till all their demands are met. From Johannesburg, South Africa, Betty Dibia, Channels Television News.
The World Health Organization, or WHO, officially declared COVID-19 a pandemic 1 year ago today. Since then, there have been more than 118 million cases and 2.6 million deaths across nearly 200 countries. Here's more on the situation around the world in our COVID-19 Global Update.
The United States has the highest number of COVID-related deaths, with 522,818 now recorded. But Brazil, badly hit by the pandemic, recorded more than 2,000 deaths in a single day, taking its toll to 268,370. Experts warn the transmission rate is made worse by more contagious variants. Across Brazil, intensive care units are at more than 80% capacity, and in 15 state capitals, ICUs are at more than 90% capacity, including in Rio de Janeiro and Sao Paulo. To COVID-19 vaccinations, as the European Union seeks to speed up a stuttering inoculation campaign and boost its supplies of vaccines, the bloc's drugs regulator has recommended conditionally approving Johnson & Johnson's single-dose COVID-19 vaccine. The COVID-19 shot is the fourth to be endorsed for use in the EU after vaccines from Pfizer-BioNTech and AstraZeneca Oxford University and Moderna, and is recommended for those over 18 years of age. Denmark has temporarily halted use of the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine as a precaution after reports of a small number of blood clots and one death. The Danish health authorities said it was too early to say whether there was a link to the AstraZeneca vaccine. AstraZeneca says its vaccine is safe, and the EU drugs regulator says there's no evidence of a link between the vaccine and the death. Elsewhere, South Korea says it will authorize the use of AstraZeneca's coronavirus vaccine for people aged 65 years and older to ramp up its immunization drive. The country will begin inoculating 376,000 patients and staff aged 65 and older in nursing hospitals and other facilities this month. And finally, Cambodia has reported its first death from the coronavirus amid its biggest COVID-19 outbreak so far, after a 50-year-old man succumbed to the virus after testing positive less than 2 weeks ago. With just 1,124 coronavirus infections recorded in total, Cambodia has among the fewest cases in Asia, although a sharp rise in infections since February 20 has seen its overall tally more than double.
Dr. Oluwaseun Akinyemi is a consultant public health physician at the University College Hospital in Ibadan. Dr. Akinyemi, thanks for joining us on the program today.
Thank you very much for having me.
So it's been 1 year since the coronavirus was declared a global pandemic. Since then, there's been 118 million cases and 2.6 million deaths globally. How would you assess the global fight against the COVID-19 so far?
Well, I think the fight has been a mixed bag, really. It's a combination of both the good, the bad, and the ugly. Some countries have done very well in the fight against the pandemic. For example, New Zealand, Germany, Australia, and some have been caught napping. Countries like United States of America, the United Kingdom, Brazil. I think Nigeria is in between these two scenarios. So it's been a mixed bag, really. We've had health workers succumbing to the disease, many countless deaths, if only politicians have risen early to the fight. For example, many world leaders, including the former American president, called it a fluke. Many were reluctant to shut down their economies because they were looking at they were weighing the economic implication vis-a-vis the public health implications. So it's been really an high opener in terms of how decisions by politicians affect our lives in total. But overall, I think it's been, it has shown the resilience that many nations have demonstrated resilience in fighting against the pandemic.
Well, vaccines have been touted as the way out of the pandemic, and we've seen several countries kick off their vaccination campaign. But the WHO has warned that it's unrealistic that we can see an end to the coronavirus pandemic this year. So should we be prepared to continue to live with this disease for a few more years to come?
Well, I think we might still live with this disease for some time to come. For example, like many viral diseases that we know, it's very, very difficult to wipe out. For example, viral disease causing diarrhea, causing even the common cold. So viral diseases are very difficult to wipe out like that because they mutate. We now have so many types of strain. We'll talk about the South African strain, the Brazilian strain, and many other strains that may still be emerging. So I think vaccine is a good way to start with. Very soon, by the time we have herd immunity, we have more than 70% of the population vaccinated, most of the population will have what it takes to fight against the disease. So, but I think that we should still ramp up our vaccination effort. We must still expedite, we must still scale up our vaccination efforts. And there's still a long way to go. And we still need to brace ourselves to go the long haul.
Right. Well, Dr. Akinyemi, thank you so much for joining us and giving further clarity on the situation. Do stay safe.
Thank you very much.
Still to come on the program. Japan marks its 10th anniversary of the Fukushima disaster. Please stay with us. Thanks for staying with us. British Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab says the country is committed to pragmatically resolving Northern Ireland trade issues with the European Union in their joint committee. Raab, who is on a visit in Estonia, also says it's important to protect the integrity of the internal market in the UK and that the country is committed to resolving outstanding issues in the joint committee. The EU promised legal action last week after the British government unilaterally extended a waiver or grace period for checks on food imports to Northern Ireland, a move that Brussels said violated the terms of Britain's divorce deal from the EU.
In the UK, we think it's very important that all sides live up to that commitment, and of course we are committed to pragmatically resolving any of the outstanding issues in the joint committee, and the action we've taken is lawful. It's targeted. It's just to make sure that the commitments to preserve the integrity of trade in the internal market is properly respected.
Question from
The Duke of Cambridge, Prince William, has issued his first comments since the explosive interview given by his brother Prince Harry and Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, saying that the royal family are not racist. Prince William also said that he has not yet spoken to his brother, but will do so. The comments made during a visit to an East London school come after Oprah Winfrey's interview with Harry and Meghan. The couple, who now lives in the U.S., alleged that a member of the royal family had questioned what skin tone their then unborn child might have. Buckingham Palace previously said the claim was concerning, but it will be addressed privately. Still speaking of the royal family, Britain's Prince Philip continues his fourth week in the care of doctors as the royal family faces tough questions in the wake of the explosive TV appearance by the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. Having first been admitted to King Edward Hospital as a precaution on February 16th, the Duke of Edinburgh subsequently received treatment for an infection before moving to a specialist cardiac center for a procedure to treat a pre-existing condition. Since being admitted to the hospital, the Duke has been publicly visited only by his son and heir to the crown, Prince Charles. The 94-year-old Queen has remained at Windsor Castle in west of London for the duration of her husband's hospital stay. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson says he's deeply saddened by the developments in the case of a missing 33-year-old woman after police said they had found what appeared to be human remains. Sarah Everard was last seen on March 3rd at 9:30 p.m. as she walked home from a friend's house in South London. A police officer was arrested on Wednesday in Kent on suspicion of kidnap and murder. Prime Minister Johnson tweeted, quote, "I am shocked and deeply saddened by the developments in the Sarah Everard investigation. Like the whole country, my thoughts are with her family and friends. We must work fast to find all the answers to this horrifying crime." Home Secretary Priti Patel also shared a statement on social media saying, quote, "Every woman should feel safe to walk on our streets without fear of harassment or violence." She pledged to do all she can do to protect women from violence and harassment. And finally on the program, Japan has paid tribute to the nearly 20,000 victims of a powerful earthquake and tsunami that struck the country 10 years ago, destroying entire towns and triggering the world's worst nuclear disaster since Chernobyl. Carrying bouquets, many people walked on Thursday to the coast or graves to pray for relatives and friends who died in the triple disaster. While a minute's silence was held nationwide at 2:46 p.m. local time, the precise moment the 9.0 magnitude earthquake hit off Japan's northeast coast on March 11, 2011. The tremor triggered a huge tsunami that swept far inland, causing meltdowns at the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant and forcing more than 160,000 residents to flee as radiation spewed into the air. Emperor Naruhito and Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga joined a memorial for the dead at a ceremony in the Japanese capital of Tokyo, where the monarch said, quote, "The unforgettable memory of the tragedy persisted a decade on." The annual memorial event was held before a smaller audience than usual, with the capital and nearby areas currently under a state of emergency due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Well, that is all for the program today. I'm Akaite Afia. Have a great evening and stay safe.